everyone. Welcome back to Mama Genius Hub podcast. I'm so excited for our guest today. We're going to be talking about adoption and in a different format than many of you might think. How do some of us as single women who want to take on motherhood, how do we do that? We have an expert here to help us figure that out, how to see it. And I can't wait to hear that. So let's jump right in today. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams, from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. So our guest today is Haynes. She's a pioneer in open adoption and a powerful advocate for single women pursuing motherhood. Her expertise encompasses the entire adoption journey. Come on, we're going to have to learn all about this. I'm curious too. From deciding to pursue motherhood through adoption to personal growth during the waiting period. We can know how waiting periods are. To successful navigating open adoption relationships. Ayla challenges the societal norms and empowers women to create families they envision regardless of their relationship status. I am so excited to bring her up. Welcome to the Mama Genius Hub podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Anytime I have a chance to share this information and inspire other women to live happy lives and fulfilled lives is a good day.
I love that so much. And so that actually just takes me into our first question is, what really led you to want to get this message out there?
You know, it came specifically from my own experience. I was a single woman who thought she had all this time in the world, and I was building a career at different stages. I was dating people, hoping that it would get to marriage. It wouldn't. And then I just looked up and I couldn't believe, Michelle, that I was in my 40s. And I really did panic. I had one of those existential moments where I really had to ask myself, could I be happy for the rest of my life without being a mom? And that's coming from someone as a child knew that she wanted like 4 or 5 kids, a full house. And so I had to really ask myself if I was able to live the rest of my life without a child. Could I divert that love of children to my career? Could I divert it into a pet, to travel, something? And when I finished having the conversation with myself and with God, the answer was no. I really, really wanted to be a mother.
I love that so much. I love that you figured that out and you were having those conversations, asking those questions, because sometimes we might just divert those questions thinking, okay, well, the husband hasn't come yet, or the path that I thought it was going to be just isn't here yet, so I need to keep waiting. But you took matters into your own hands, and I love that so much. But you did it through first by asking those questions. And I think that's what this is all about, is first asking, what are our desires? What are the things that we're willing to not put aside? Then the question comes to, how do we get there? So I really want to dive into, what is the logistics to all of this? Because it might be really scary for a lot of women listening to this right now going, yeah, well, she did it, but I still don't think I can do it.
Well, that's exactly where I started. I was like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could be a single mother by myself, even though I came from a single mother household. But I think if we don't have those conversations with ourselves, it just leads to unhappiness. I think if you are very truthful and honest, not only with yourself, you can have honest conversations with other people in your life. And you will need to have those kind of conversations with them because you need to know if you have the support. And what I found out is even my mother, who I was, apprehensive about sharing this desire with, or not even a desire, but that the reality looked like I was going to have to become a mother on my own. She gave me her support. And that was through really deep conversations. And by the way, my mother was a minister. She was a Presbyterian minister. So there's a whole lot that goes along with my decision as well. What would the congregation think, and you start thinking about everybody else except yourself. And even when I work with my clients, I have them start with a questionnaire. There's no right or wrong answer. It's really important for them to just answer the questions truthfully to themselves. Is this something that you can do by yourself? Do you want to do it by yourself? How does it look if you do it by yourself? Do you care about other people's opinion? throughout the
Mm.
process.
Right.
So talking about logistics, it started with me just exploring and asking a lot of questions. And I had someone in my immediate family, my cousin, who had adopted. And her story is that she adopted without telling anyone in the family because she was apprehensive about the birth mother changing their mind and having to explain, what happened there. So there's a lot that goes into how single women deal with the process, right? We tend to internalize it if we don't have a support system or a perceived support system. We tend to think that we have to go through it by ourselves. But I always say that even as a single mother, you have to realize and ensure that you're not alone, right? There's a community of people out there and women who can help you along the way. So logistics are asking questions, finding out what adoption is, what kinds of adoption there are out there. There's closed, there's semi-open. Closed means you have no contact and no knowledge of the birth family. Semi-open means that you know who the birth family is, but you don't have any contact really, either by default or design. And what I espouse is open adoption, where you know who the birth parent and family are, and you have created a relationship with them very gently and smoothly over time that is respectful and healthy and actually helps every single person in that adoption triad. And when I talk about
Mm.
triad, that is the birth parent, it's the adoptive parent, and it's the adoptive child. But for all of the people involved in that adoption triad, an open adoption most benefits the child. And that's what I've really wanted my daughter to be strengthened by. I didn't want her to have questions. I didn't want her to wonder why or doubt whether she was loved from the very beginning. And so I took away all the questions.
Wow. I love the way you said that because you took away a lot of questions. I've actually been talking to some of my friends who have mentioned that they're adopted and they haven't had any contact with the parents, but they've always wondered. And that really does illuminate some of that and helps create that story and helps the child to understand the story behind the reasoning and the whys and everything behind it. And we'll be back in just one moment. Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. And we're back. And I love how you describe the triad, how you put it actually into, I can visualize, I'm like holding up a triangle right now, visualizing what that looks like because of the connection and how it creates differently. So, but let's go backwards a little bit so we can go into, because that comes obviously a little bit later, and we may even have to do another podcast talk about that later.
I love that. Yes.
But I want to go back to the beginning because I want to start with the people who might be like, wow, this is an interesting idea, but where the heck do I start after the questions? And I decide that this is something that I do want. Where do I even start? Because you're talking about community and all these things. And like all of a sudden I can even feel it without even having to go there. Like the overwhelm just starts. I want to relieve some of that overwhelm for interested women listening right now.
Yes. So you can start at my website. I have a website called openadoptionsuccess.com. And it's a place where you can find resources. You can find that questionnaire that has no right or wrong answer. You can find ebooks about adoption agencies that are favorable to single women, adoption agencies overseas that are favorable, because sometimes they do have age restrictions for parents and single parents especially. There's all sorts of resources there, or you can find them online simply by Googling, I'm interested in adopting. I also have a Facebook group for women that's just for women who are considering adoption and going through that journey. And I have a webinar as well, Finding the Child Meant for You to Love, because I believe that there is a child out there for every single one of us. I say that, by the way, I did go through the fertility route. I tried it. It didn't work. I tried IUI. I tried IVF very expensively. Um, it wasn't the route that God chose for me to become a mother. So when I went to adoption, I realized this whole time fertility treatments were an if I was going to become a
Right.
mother.
Yeah.
But through adoption, it was a when. And it happened much faster than I thought. So when people start going, oh, can I do it? Is it going to be right for me? I was told as a Black woman that, and a single Black woman at that, it was going to take me over a year and a half to be selected by a birth mother. So I was fine with that. I said, okay, I'll do different things in my life until I'm selected. Well, it didn't take that long. It took only about 3 to 4 weeks after I had submitted my paperwork. So you can imagine my head was spinning.
Just a wee bit.
Yes, I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is gonna happen." But it didn't. I had to have a lot of things in place in order for that to happen, right? You just don't decide you're going to be an adoptive mother and show up at an adoption agency, sign paperwork. There's a lot of things that go into it beforehand. So I had to have my home study ready, right? And every state has a different policy and practice for home studies. You'll have to hire a social worker who is going to come into your home, look to see that it's in good condition, that you have enough space and room for a child, that if it's an opposite sex child that you would be adopting, you would need another bedroom if you only had a 1 bedroom. You don't need to have a house, you can have an apartment. But if you are going to have a boy, for instance, it has to have its own room. They look at your finances, they look at your taxes, they look at your insurance coverage, they look at everything, right? So you can't be one of those people who are like, I'm not showing that paper. Well, then you're
Right.
not going to have a child, right? Because it is their job to ensure that that child is going into a house that can not only support that child emotionally, but also um, physically, emotionally, in every single way. And then you have to get your fingerprints done. So that takes time. It has
Mhm.
to go down to DC, to the Homeland Security. That could take as long as it takes for whatever's going on in the world. And you get that back. You might have to get local fingerprints. So there's a process to go through, but I work with people through that. I'm actually so excited that I'm finishing up a an app that will work with people throughout the whole process, whether you're single or not. So excited about that. Did you know, Michelle, that there are over 20 apps on how to adopt a pet and almost none for adopting a child?
Okay, well, my jaw just dropped if you didn't see the video, but I never even thought about it that way. But like, and there's so much to go behind it, and so much, and I love that you're creating the support for it because there's so many out there that want to give the love, and there's so many children that need the love. And I saw
Absolutely.
what you do. I was like, let's have. I had to bring you on because I was like, that's what this is all about. It's empowering us to say that that's what we desire and to find ways to do that. So those of you out there, I know I've had some people in my life who've said who contemplated that as single women wanting to be moms, but then like weren't sure and going down that route, and to be able to now lead them somewhere and have that support. And I just thought it was such a, but wow, that many in
Yeah.
pets.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, it goes along with the fact that we can take driving lessons, right, to learn how to drive a car and all of these different things that are licensed by the state, but there's nothing to help you raise a child, whether you birth the child physically or adopt the child, right? So these are the type of things that we do need to help other people with and ourselves. I've learned so much throughout the process of becoming a mother, and becoming a mother through adoption has totally inspired me to change my life. I was a real estate agent. I still am. I still have my license. But what I'm truly impassioned by is helping build families and build families through adoption, and making sure that that child that could end up, not having the best life, absolutely is living the life that their birth parents wished and hoped for would be their future.
I love the way you put that too, because it does come down to like just things happen and we all end up in different circumstances. But the fact that we can support each other and to push that out a little bit more in terms of how do we mesh all the desires together? Because honestly, the whole thing about this as well is for us all to live in our genius, and for you to be able to match children who really could have a better start on life is such a beautiful way of doing that. And that moment will be right back. We'll talk about ways for you as moms to in this commercial.
Do you ever feel like your own dreams are fading on you as you focus and keep everything together for your family, or been buried under laundry and school runs and endless to-do lists? They're so deep, you don't even know what they are anymore. The Mama Genius Hub is here to help you uncover that part of you again. Maybe you felt that pull to start a passion project, return to a hobby you once loved, or pursue a career that lights you up, but you're so caught in everyone else's needs that you keep slipping through the cracks. In just 15 minutes a day, our mini courses will help you reconnect with those dreams while finding a new rhythm in motherhood's beautiful, messy life. And best of all, you'll be doing it with a community of moms who truly understand the juggle and the joy. The Mama Genius Hub is a community who've been there and are here to support and inspire each other every step of the way. It's time to rediscover your spark, live in your genius, and inspire your kids by showing them how to follow their own passions. Join the Mama Genius Hub today and start creating space for you again without guilt. You do not get solo.
Come to www.connectingmamas.com for more details.
And we're back. So I just love this concept of you creating families and this idea. And so those of you listening right now, if you have that wish, whether you're single or going through fertility treatments and just not sure how that's working, or whatever is your wish to create that family, I is here to help with that. And so I kind of want to go through a little bit more. So you talked a little bit about the process of what it takes to get ready to have that child. Now, what is the waiting process? Like, I mean, for you, it went a little quickly. So for others, it might be a little bit longer. What is, you were talking about some of the support in that. What are some recommendations or things that you recommend in making sure that you never know when that day is going to arrive, that that child's in your hands?
That's so true. And I mean, even though at the end it happened faster, there was still a long waiting period between the time that I decided to go this route and I had to select which adoption agency I was going to go with, whether they were going to be local to my state or out of state. I still found myself trying to control the process and move it along as fast as possible. And I was getting frustrated. My social worker wouldn't be available the day that we had scheduled and then would have to reschedule. And I was just trying to muscle it all. And then I finally realized, I was like, okay, relax. And I had this conversation with God. I was like, I need this to happen right now. I know they said it's going to be a year and a half, but if I can just finish my stuff, then it might not be so long. And then I realized, well, God said, the baby that I have for you is not ready. Just relax. And then when I did that, Michelle, it was a weight went off of my shoulders. I just relaxed and enjoyed the process. I said, okay, I'm going to get my paperwork in and that's it. And when I released the steering wheel is when all of a sudden I get a call. Hey, would you like to be considered for this woman who's having a baby? I'm like, yeah. And so because I was able to release it and let go and let God, it happened in a faster timeline than I had ever expected. And there's just so much in that whole story. Well, that'll be another segment, like just how my daughter came about. And it was just amazing. But the process of waiting involves a lot of self-awareness, knowing that once you've made your decision, everything is going to be okay. You don't have to control the situation. You don't have to muscle it. You can just go about setting up your foundation of people who are going to be supporting you, Consider a job change if you need to. I had a really dear friend of mine who was in a travel heavy job
Mm.
before she adopted, and she needed to change. And actually, it ended up that it all worked out because she ended up getting laid off and had to find a new job. And she found the perfect job and didn't have to travel and could be with her son. And so there's all of that. You have to just really be honest with yourself. Do you have a boss that's going to be understanding if you need time off? Do you have people who can step in as godparents to support you? Do you have family that can be babysitters for you? Or do you have enough financial resources that you can hire a nanny or someone who's there more times than they're not? So those are the type of things that I like my clients to think about. Do you need to make a job change? Is this the time for you to become an entrepreneur and do something at home that's going to bring you in more money and give you more time flexibility? So that's part of the waiting process.
I love that so much. And I think a lot of people don't take some of those suggestions into, or think about the things that you do need to think about. I love how you're bringing that to the foreground of, you don't need to have all the answers right this second, but if you just start creating those questions that you need to ask yourself and to start moving forward in this direction, then, like you said, the magic's going to happen. And I love how you just said release and let go. And I think that's true of anything. Like, we put so much pressure on things and try to like cement it in. And the more we start to release, and it's ironic though, my word, which just kind of came midway for this year and probably going next year, is just the word surrender. And when we start to just surrender to things, I mean, some of you may not even, but we start this interview even late. Just something happened in with the time zones, and, the things happen, right? But here we are now. We're having the conversation that needed to be had the way it needed to be had, because we released it. We still had, it all worked out because we still had both
It all worked out
in our schedule. And it's those things just work out, and it changes your perspective. I mean, I was like, wait, where is she? I was getting frustrated, like when you're like, you think it's a no-show, then you're like, oh, it's a mistake. But that's why we set up the precautions. I was like, let's exchange phone numbers. Let's do this. So that when those things happen, when you have that foundation in play that you're talking about and setting those up. And so I want to just put the word foundation out to everyone in the audience right now. And what is the foundation you want to work on? Maybe you are starting that business right now. Maybe you do want to adopt. What is that foundation that you want to start for that big dream of yours right now? And ask yourself, What is that big dream? And just write the word foundation next to it and start letting the questions come to you that might overwhelm you at first. But if you get them on paper, you can start slowly releasing and answering them, as Aya was telling us to do. And it's so beautiful. The more we release and surrender, the more things can happen.
Yes, I mean, exactly. I mean, time zones mess people up all the time, right? And we could have been flustered by it. We were like, okay, we're going to make it work. And that's what motherhood is, right? There's like
navigating it all
on a daily basis. And if anything will get you ready for things not going as planned, it's motherhood. And no matter if you birth a child or adopt it doesn't matter. All right. You learn to release, or you should, right? Because you'll be too stressed out and there are more important things to worry about. One of the things that I want to say to you is that I'm impressed by how organized you are throughout your whole process. It was like, this woman is really organized. And I loved it. I really do. And I aspire to that level of organization. So we'll be talking. I'm going to be
I love that.
I'll be in your group there.
And that's what this is all about, is really just finding your people and finding the people of support. And that's why I want to do this podcast, is I want to bring on people I don't even know. Like, this first time we were even having this conversation, but we met through Podmatch, which is where I'm now hosting my podcast as well. I'm on, which is why I'm going back and doing that. But it's about creating those connections. And I love the way they do it in terms, you can see profiles and stuff. And it's like a dating service for podcasting, right? And but I love it in terms that it then takes away, just like dating services do, it takes away that filter that, like, I'm like, you know what? I'm comfortable just going live with her. Like, I don't need to worry about the pre-interview and all that, because we're able to have that conversation in the chat, things like that, and get to know each other. And so I think the more we start to do that with others who are on our path, But I'm going to leave you with this before we go into our final question is figure out what that path is for you. And if it is adoption, some of you might have that dream like right inside of you and just thinking, I'm single, I can't do it. Well, A is here to tell you that you can. And that's what this is about, is finding what is that desire inside of you, your genius that's in there, and then trying to match that to people who can help you achieve that, because you can. And that's what this is all about. So we're going to actually, that kind of just leads us into our final question, which is, what is a common misconception about motherhood that you think holds many moms back from truly stepping into their genius?
I think the biggest misconception with the group of women that I work with specifically is that I can't do it. I can't be a single mom. I'm under resourced. I don't know how to do it. And oh, I'll wait until that date or that age or that thing. And there's so many milestones and moving points that just keep moving in the sand. And then next thing you know, the time has passed. And so the misconception is that you're alone, and you're not. That you're the only one who's ever done single motherhood before, or this way. The women that I work with in this age group, in their 40s and even in their 50s, they generally work and have had long periods of work, and they have money, or they have enough disposable income to be able to support themselves. They have savings, and everything that makes you successful at work is going to make you successful in the home, and being a mother, and being a single mother at that. And again, you are never alone as a single mother. You may feel that at times, but there are women out there who have done it before you, who will do it alongside you, and who are ready to just link arms with you and make it the best experience of your life. Because I can say without a shadow of a doubt that motherhood was my saving grace. It was how I was able to get over the grief of my own loss of my mother. I lost my mother the same year as I adopted my daughter. The grief would have been too much, but the joy that comes from a little child looking in your eyes, who is so reliant on you, and all of the funny stories and the things that they do, it can only enrich your life. So I say, do what makes you happy. What makes you happy, not someone else, but you.
Well, I think on that note, you got to, as you tell everyone what your free gift is, or ever
Yes.
is, also tell them what your name means.
Oh, so my name is Ayo, which means joy. It's from the Yoruba language of Africa. My daughter's name actually is Ife, which is also from the same language, and it means love. So I say my house is filled with love and joy. My free gift, I would love for anyone to go to my website, and you can download the questionnaire I have there. I have other questionnaires there. So you go to openadoptionsuccess.com. My Facebook group is, I'm looking at the name, hold on. Open Adoption for Single Women, Your Path to Motherhood. And I've got other free things. Just send me an email, find me on any of the social medias. We'll have a conversation, and we'll just start talking.
I'm put Io back behind stage for a moment. I give our 5 takeaways today. So wasn't that such an engaging conversation? And I just want to start. The first takeaway is you can, whatever that dream or desire is. But let's go through our 5 top takeaways. Number 1 is first having that conversation with yourself, and a strong, and actually having those conversations. Sometimes we get taken away from not wanting to do that. And so we do need to have those conversations and starting to asking those questions, to start with the questions and having those conversations. Takeaway number 2 is that sometimes we internalize them and think we need to go do all this by ourselves. That's why we're having this conversation right now between the two of us, because we want to bring you in and give you a space to find your community if this is your desire. And that's what the Mama Genius Hub is all about, is finding whatever your desire is and finding the people that can help you achieve that. Number 3 is then figuring out the logistics. What type of adoption would you want? Would you want the open, closed, semi? But then to work with it and to figure out, I love how she put the triad, right? That you have the adopted child, the adopted parents, and the biological parents. And how can you bring that all together. And then we have the getting ready, right? Actually creating that foundation. How do we do all the things? And she went through all the questions and to go back and to really look at all the process of everything that's going through and all the questions, but to really just put that foundation into play for what you want. So whether it's adoption, and she went through some steps of that, or whether the foundation is something else to really create that. Then that leads us to last, number 5, when that waiting period is, the takeaway is to really release and let go. To be part of that awareness and really have what is making you want that decision, what is making that inside of you, to release that to God, to universe, to whatever it is for you, but to really start. And I'm going to say my word of the year is surrender. And I think that kind of goes into play with all of this. And so I'm going to bring back Io for her final takeaway before we say goodbye to everyone.
Well, again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my journey. I think it's a journey that so many people will find fulfilling. I believe adoption is an option, not just for single women or women and husbands that are not able to have children. It is an incredible gift to any child, regardless of your relationship status. Imagine if you can give a home to a child who is in desperate need of life, love, and friends. And I just can't think of a better way to enrich another person's life.
Well, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. Everyone, thank you for watching, and we'll take you out.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.